Southern Baptist Convention, once 16 million members strong, now down to 13 million, and they continue to shrink. The SBC is facing criticism over whether it is overwhelmingly white male leadership can lead them into the future. Some leaders, like William Wolfe, are rallying around the idea of making Baptists great again. The loudest voices pushing that mission, nearly all white guys. They're literally driving efforts to denounce critical race theory, roll back diversity initiatives, and pass a so-called law amendment that bans women from being pastors. Reverend Dr. William Dwight McKissick, senior pastor of Cornerstone Baptist Church, Arlington, Texas. He posted this response to Wolfe's comments on social media. He said, "You can't have a group who adopt as their mission to make Baptists great again, and it's only represented by white males. Their true goal is to make the SBC white again, so that they can denounce CRT, DEI, and pass the law amendment that thus far they've been unsuccessful in doing." Well, Pastor McKissick joins us right now. Glad to have you back on the show. It is interesting, make Baptists great again, and to your point, that's a little bit hard to do, as if black folks don't exist, because if you look at the growth of the Southern Baptist Convention, or actually what's actually been keeping them going, hasn't been white churches, been black people.
Good to see you, Roland. Thanks for inviting me. I want to say the group that William Wolfe heads, it's a Center for Baptist Leadership. He named it. He used to work for the Trump administration. I think that Making Baptists Great Again is a spinoff of, MAGA, Making America Great Again. He worked as an intern for Dr. Al Mohler, who would probably represent probably the only one of the few cabinet members who would be so vocal on some of the things regarding DEI. He was adamantly opposed to passing the CRT resolution that was passed, much to the dismay of that whole Making Baptists Great Again crowd. They're mad going back to a resolution was passed that myself and other black pastors to affirm the election of President Obama in 2008. The vote took place 2009 as a matter of historic event, not to say you embrace all of his ideology or political belief systems, but just to acknowledge the fact that it was quite a historic feat for this country. The hands that used to pick cotton had now picked presidents, and so the majority voted to affirm the historic election of Obama. But that the group that William would represent was angry about CRT, angry about the Southern Baptist Convention has not succeeded. They denounced the curse of Ham, which was their theological position for years, that blacks descended from Ham. Ham was cursed, therefore all blacks were cursed. So that justified their slavery policies and practices, segregation, on and on. So in actuality, when it comes to vote, and even tried to exclude women from even serving as associate pastor of women, associate pastor of children. They don't want the word pastor, which the Bible does not back, in any way associated with the woman. So this group is sort of feeling defeated, and therefore Wolfe has created this, I think based on votes, they're somewhat in the minority, but there's a growing sentiment and a MAGA element that would support, that want to go now and legislate again or review the issues we've talked about. And so that's what brings us here today. And I just hate to see what once was an organization, a lot of black campuses, Southern University, Baton Rouge, University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, probably Texas Southern and Prairie View, where Southern Baptist had outreaches to college students that were quite impactful. I could just name a lot of positive stuff that has taken place through the Southern Baptist Convention, some directly connected to black people, but with the advent of Trump, and it was my projection that they would morph it to being the Trump Baptist Convention, and we're seeing a movement for that. No longer have any shame in that game. They're moving in the direction to take on just about all the policies.
Yep.
of Donald Trump.
Yeah, they absolutely have sold out to Donald Trump. In fact, this was a tweet posted last year by William Wolfe. A key pillar of any truly Christian biblical justice reform would be an increased use of capital punishment, both in increasing offenses punishable by death and more swiftly executing those sentenced to death, would serve as a major deterrent and help protect the vulnerable. Bishop, Pastor, here's reality. That's a lie. The death penalty has not served as a deterrent. It is not. We have not seen a dramatic drop in capital murders in this country because of the death penalty. But what you have is you have folks, and again, they love the Catholic Church position on abortion, but they don't want to talk about the Catholic Church's position on the death penalty, which they artfully oppose.
Right. This is the law and order crowd that want to keep the Epstein files concealed. Wolfe and Al Mohler, several of them have gone on record. They don't believe you can be a genuine, authentic, born-again believer, go to heaven if you vote for a Democrat, which I find a very ludicrous position to take, even if people think independent, vote independent, and vote on either side. But to tie how you vote to salvation, it contradicts the very belief system of the Southern Baptist Convention. It was saved by grace through faith and not of works. It's a gift of God. So for them to say your vote has an impact on whether or not you're saved or can go to heaven, that's hearsay of the highest order. But that's what the William Wolfe crowd represents. And if they get totally in charge of the SBC, lights out, particularly for most of us in the National African American Fellowship. The Chinese Baptists have even gone on record disagreeing with them wanting to pass a law amendment because they recognize women being gifted and can have the spiritual gift of pastoring. And the Hispanic groups, the minority groups, don't feel as the others. Then that's why they have not. And you say we're 20% minority as a convention, and that's why they have not been successful in passing the votes to turn us back to another era.
And this guy, he wants Christian nationalism. This is him on a right-wing podcast, and this is what he says. And I'm trying to figure out what's so Christian about what he had to say. Listen to this.
I've said it like this before, right? The Democrats hate God. They hate family, they hate marriage, they hate children, they hate our nation. So figure out what it looks like to pursue a policy agenda that, that displays a hatred for all those things, which are, fundamentally a part of what we would call the true, the good, and the beautiful. And that's.
Come on. See, and again, this is the game they play. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of pastors, okay, who vote Democrat. Say they hate God, they hate family, they hate children. I mean, that's just sheer stupidity. But this is what the right loves.
Yeah, William Wolfe, and I need to get better at my screenshot game, but he wouldn't deny it. He put out a tweet 2 to 3 years ago on this Christian nationalism that the Anglo-Protestantism work ethic is what made America great. And what he means by nationalism is the white Protestants being the standard by which we judge greatness. And he specifically said Anglo. I mean, he didn't hide that fact. And so you're not just talking about, and again, if we talk about Christian nationalism, what Christian we talking about? Not Turner Brand of Christian and being a Baptist, or are we talking about William Wolfe's and Al Mohler's brand of being a Christian and Baptist? So much is fundamentally flawed by that whole Christian nationalism way of thinking that he wants to not only impose on the nation, they want to begin by imposing it on the Southern Baptist Convention, want to bind the conscience of the convention to that right-wing ideology that I find detestable and deplorable.
See, they want a theocracy. They believe in Christian. No, they don't believe in Christian nationalism. They believe in white right-wing Christian nationalism.
Absolutely.
That is what they believe in.
And I am sort of surprised with some of the voting going against them on so many ways. they are relentless to keep raising these issues. And I just pray that a convention that should be in the business about the kingdom of God, Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world, will not turn the clock back in such a way it becomes only appealing and a compelling convention to the nationalistic movement. Again, he said the Anglo-Protestant is the standard by which he wants the policies, the philosophy, the vision of America to be. Not just all believers, not all
Oh no.
evangelicals, the Anglo-Protestants.
In fact, this is not tied to this story, but I saw this clip earlier. And this is a Missouri Republican United States Senator Eric Schmidt. And he's speaking at a national conservative conference. And see, these two things go together, okay? They go together, okay? And listen to what he says and listen to who he says this country is supposed to be for.
The Continental Army soldiers dying of frostbite at Valley Forge, the Pilgrims struggling to survive in the hard winter soil of Plymouth, the pioneers striking out from Missouri for the wild and dangerous frontier, the outnumbered Kentucky settlers repelling wave after wave of Indian war band attacks from beyond the stockade walls. All of them will be astonished to hear that they were only fighting for a proposition. They believed they were fighting for a nation, a homeland for themselves and their descendants. They fought, they bled, they struggled, they died for us. They built this country for us. America, in all its glory, is their gift to us, handed down across the generations. It belongs to us. It's our birthright. It's our heritage, our destiny. If America is everything and everyone, then it is nothing and no one at all. When they tear down our statues and monuments, mock our history, and insult our traditions, they're attacking our future as well as our past. By changing the stories we tell about ourselves, they believe they can build a new America with the new myths, a new people. But America doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us. It's our home. It's a heritage entrusted to us by our ancestors. It's a way of life that is ours and only ours. If we disappear, then America too will cease to exist.
Pastor McKissick, who's us? Who's our? The way I see that, he ain't talking about me and you.
Absolutely. I asked that question several years ago in Louisiana when they wanted to say the convention was against Russell Moore, which is also at the root of this. And they say, we're against it. Who is we? It's certainly not the black components or the more progressive. Russell Moore spoke out against police brutality, and that brought about the anger of people like William Wolfe. Paul Pressler, before he passed, stood before an all-white audience at Southern Seminary and said the wrong side won the Civil War, and they burst out with laughter and applause. Russell Moore got up and walked out of the room because he recognized that Paul Pressler should not have even felt comfortable to make such a statement. But when you say the wrong side won the Civil War, and Al Mohler at the time was on record as believing in the lost cause. So when they say us or we, they're talking about people who adhere to the philosophy of a Paul Pressler, a Al Mohler, a William Wolfe, and they're not talking about a Fred Luter, who was the first president in the history of Southern Baptist Convention to go on NBC and denounce police brutality. So the Great Commission includes everybody and involves everybody, but we soon discover when in 2012, they nominated a great conservative resurgence committee. And when I looked at it, they had one or two Hispanics, but 25 people to a committee to make the Southern Baptist Convention great again, evangelism, missions, revival, baptisms, and they left any black female or black male completely off the committee.
And of course, Pressler makes that particular comment. But I wonder what that same Bible says about sexual assault of men.
Well, yeah, there's been some discoveries about him, some credible accusations, which means.
And the SBC settled many of those lawsuits when several men accused him. But again, it shows you the hypocrisy where a Paul Pressler, and come on, go to my iPad. This is the photo of him. This is the New York Times obit when he died at 94, and also he was a former judge. He's a former judge. It's amazing how they are so morally superior, but not in all things.
The fact that they've never publicly acknowledged his ills or that his practices were totally counterculture to what they say our belief systems are is pure hypocrisy to me. And they are upset with Russell Moore because he put on the MLK 50 in Memphis, 7 or 8 years ago, and it's very successful, very powerful, brought Southern Baptists together across racial lines and college students in a powerful way. But the William Wolfe crowd totally opposed it behind their belief that there's some missteps and imperfections and immoral acts on behalf of Martin Luther King. The Bible said all have sinned, fallen short of the glory of God. That's not to excuse anybody, but I have a difficult time how they can be so compassionate or ignore the sins, the failures of a Paul Pressler, while at the same time, if you bring up Martin Luther King in any context, you'll have 25, 30% of Southern Baptists going to talk about an FBI report, and while that same group would vote to close the Epstein files. Hypocrisy on steroids.
Absolutely, and this is Christianity Today. Their story died. Disgraced Southern Baptist leader Paul Pressler, the Texas judge behind the political strategy for the conservative resurgence, molested and assaulted teenage boys, according to allegations 8 men made in court. The thing that we have to, and the basis of my book, White Fear, Pastor McKissick, and I said it, White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. And I made it perfectly clear that what we are seeing, the attacks on undocumented folks, the effort to defund Black America, now all of a sudden you see these same so-called right-wing Christians, now they're complaining about the immigration in Europe. They're complaining about birth rates. They're following Elon Musk there. And what they're complaining about are white birth rates. What this is all about, and I saw it coming. They are scared to death of America becoming a nation, majority of people of color. And that's why that speech by a sitting United States senator, and you know what's amazing? Not a single one of these national television shows has talked about that, where this man is a United States senator and he is preaching a white nationalist, white supremacist ideology. And what these folks are advocating for, they want whiteness to be to maintain power. You've got people Donald Trump has hired who have actually said we are better off if we have more white men who are in power. That's what's driving this whole agenda. Whiteness is what's driving it.
And that's what's meant by make the Baptists great again, the agenda you're referring to. And in the whole history of the SBC, there was one Black nominated to be an entity head, and we had to fight real hard for that to happen. Unfortunately, he had misrepresented his resume and was disqualified, but that's still no. If you go on the Southern Baptist website today, everybody who makes $500,000 or more, huge salaries, the most powerful people in the convention. Every last one of them is a white male in 2025 after having been integrated since 1954. So to see this backpedaling from previous years, when I was growing up in terms of camps, terms of missions outreach, in many ways, I was shocked to discover as a 20-some-year-old that the Southern Baptist has such a racist history and advocates of slavery. I didn't know their origin and development because growing up in a Black Baptist context that had friendly relationships with Southern Baptists, I was just appalled and shocked at their history. And there were concerted efforts to change this and major steps being made. But the group, they labeled a group that believed in racial healing and reconciliation as moderates, and they've since dislodged many of them from the convention, and the people in charge today prefer not to deal with those kinds of matters and take us back to another era. It's really disturbing. And I appreciate you even giving that you find this subject matter interesting enough to know it's not in the best interest of the country, let alone not in the best interest of Southern Baptists.
Well, they have been more Southern than Baptists in their history. And we're going to close with this here. This is a look at the executive committee members of the Southern Baptist Convention. And you see what it looks like. You got this one sister who's a principal.
Well, actually, that is not the.
This is the.
They're non-entity heads.
Okay.
They are executive committee members, but they are not the executive entity heads. Those are volunteer people.
Gotcha. So that's the executive committee. So they have on their website here, they have executive committee members, executive committee staff. But if you click SBC and it lays out their executive committee is comprised of 86 representatives. So,
yeah.
but then
when we talk about executive entity heads, that would be 6 seminaries, the North American Mission Board, the International Mission Board, and Lifeway. Who has those particular 9 entities? They are salaried people. None of those are a minority or female, and that's what I mean by
gotcha. So you're saying they may have an executive committee, but the power of the SBC resides in the hands of the other folk.
Exactly. I did a 7-floor interview. When I say interview, I asked in a meeting I was in, I want to meet the highest ranking Black in this building, 7 floors. They took me on the elevator tour. And I says, who is that? Who might that person be? Introduce me to that person. And discovered that the highest ranking Black in that building, this was 10 plus years ago, was the head janitor. And later, a lower level Black employee told me he was not even the head janitor. He was a mid-level custodian. So at the entire facility, 7 floors.
Wow.
There was not one Black.
Like I said, more Southern than Baptist. Pastor McKissick, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
God bless you. Appreciate you, Roland.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.